Hi Year 4, this is an additional video to help you with the fraction challenge, just in case you're finding it a little bit challenging. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago we practiced a method for equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are when a fraction means the same amount, it's just been split up differently. Okay, convert the fractions to decimals to solve the colour by numbers puzzle. So the first thing, remember to multiply the denominators to 100. We do that because it's easier to turn into a decimal. We multiply the numerator by the same amount. We start by solving all the fractions with the denominator of 100. So you can see my example. In the colour by numbers puzzle, there's lots which just have a denominator of 100. And those, you don't need to find an equivalent fraction, you just put them as decimals. So 20 over 100, we know is the same as 20 divided by 100. Okay, so you can see 20 in my place value grid. I've got my 2 in my tens column, my 0 in my ones column. And I'm going to divide that by 100, so therefore I'm going to move it down 2 place value columns. So my 2 is moving down to the ones to the tenths. Okay, I can put my 0, my placeholder that was originally in the ones column, in the hundredths column, but I don't have to because it's just a placeholder. I do need the 0 point to make sure that decimal point line stays there though. So you can see I've just extended the top tips. Then solve all the fractions with a denominator of 50 or 200. Now, the reason we're starting with 50 or 200 is because with 50, you know a way to get that really easily to 100, and the same thing with 200. So let's look at the first example. Okay, 11 over 50. I know that 50 times 2 is 100. So I do the same thing to my numerator. 11 times 2 is 22. At that point, 22 divided by 100, I put 22 into my place value grid, my 2, my 20 is my tens column, my 2 for my ones into the ones column, and then I would divide it by 100 and take it down 2 place value places. So you can see that my 2 in my tens column has gone down to the ones and then to the tenths, and the 2 in the ones column has gone down to the hundredths. Again, I put the 0 point to make sure the decimal point line is still shown. Next one. So I've got 100 over 200. Now you might recognise that as a similar fraction that we already know, but I'm just going to deal with it as though it is just going to be organised by its denominator of 200. So 200 to get to 100, I can divide by 2. So I have to do the same thing to my numerator. 100 divided by 2 is 50. And we should know those skills. Then again, I've got 50 over 100, and I need to divide the 50 by 100. So 50 goes into my place value grid, 5 of my tens column, and then dividing it by 100. So 5 is in my tens column, moving it down to my tenths column, I've got 0.5. You can put 0.50, but again, the 0 is a placeholder and doesn't really need to be there, so it's up to you. Okay, so here is the last bit of top tips. Remember to keep an eye out for fractions you know. For example, a half is the same as any fraction where the numerator is half the denominator. This is an example. 2 over 4, 2 quarters. I can see that 2 is half of 4. Okay, so I know that it's going to go to a half. So I can divide that one by 2. You can see that 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. I can then put it over 100. So 2 times 50 is 100. So 1 times 50 is 50. So it's the same thing as 50 over 100. And I can just learn that automatically. I see things like 2 quarters that remind me of a half. And I know I'm going to put 50 over 100 because I know it's the same as 0.5. You can see there again, it's the same answer as the previous one. 50 goes into the place value grid. And then the 5 moves down 2 places because it's divided by 100. Okay, so do it in that order. Do the ones where you just had to find the decimal, the ones where the denominator is already 100. Then find the fractions with a denominator of 50 or 200. Those are the next easy. Okay, there are a couple of other ones that have 25 as a denominator and 20. Okay, or there might be 10 on the bottom. Okay, so do those ones next. The last one is the tricky one. If you're struggling with that, by that point you should be able to see the picture. Okay, so it should be a really big clue as to what the kind of answer you're looking for should be. Okay, good luck, you can do it.